Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Daily Revelations. Today we are diving into a little bit of Jeremiah, and Jeremiah 2 is where we're going to see, and talking about sticking to a fruitful path. We all want our lives to be fruitful, don't we? But do our choices say that I want to be fruitful, or are our choices actually contradicting what we really desire? That is the issue at hand, because the way the world says fruitfulness happens is very different from what God says about fruitfulness and how it comes about. So I'm going to take you a little bit through Jeremiah 2, and specifically what God says to the Israelites that we can translate into our own lives, and really gave me some imagery for myself to help me from getting off that fruitful path and going to unfruitful places, because it's very easy because it's our human nature to actually do this. And so we have to build in some safeguards. So what does God tell us about this? He says, it's your choice. God gives us free will. That free will, unfortunately, we take and run with. Exactly that, run. We don't stay. God says, you're walking away from me. I'm walking right here with you. And he's so blatantly clear with the Israelites. I was in your presence. I was doing things for you, and you just skipped off and left for the next God that seemed more pleasing to you. How rude. But we do it all the time. When God is working in our lives, instead of looking up and saying, thank you, and what do you want me to do next, and how do I keep going on, when he's right there, we start looking around for everything else we can turn to so that we can get more here, because we think it's going to be a more fruitful path. And in the end, it's not. It leads us away from God. It leads us away from fruitful practices. And in the end, all of that will mean nothing. So, God says this. He says, we're choosing, instead of his way, my way. And that is the first indicator that where I'm headed is not going to be fruitful. But he also tells us it's not hopeless. Because of his mercy, we have the ability to come back. The problem is, in our coming back, we wasted time, we wasted energy, and we wasted resources. And yet we learn lessons and we come back onto the path. In between all my notes, I drew this path here. This is the path God has for us. Each of us have a different path. We don't know where it's going to go. We come to these turns and we go, life is going to be crazy and falling apart. I think I want to go this way instead. And we follow these things that we make on our own. We make these little paths out into the woods to see something that we see out there that is much more enticing. And in the end, we discover it's not what it looked like from far away. It was an unfruitful choice. The things I wrote down there were relationships. We put those before God. Success. We put that before God. Avoidance of things we need to deal with. If we put that before what God tells us we're supposed to be doing. Indulgences that we fall into. Food. Lots of things we can turn to instead of God that will take us off that path. And he says that when we follow him, we choose to keep coming to him. We choose to remember him. Remember the past things he's done. That's what holds our feet to that path. It is not that I have this strong willpower and I can just stay here. I can plant my feet and I'm going to dig it down and call it good. We need to do something more than that. Our human willpower will fail. But remembering God's goodness in our lives, praising Him, worshiping Him, that's what makes our feet stick to the path. When we forget, that's when we start looking, and that's when we start going. And so we can't forget. We have to remember. And then we see our sin. We see our sin for what it is. We don't try to cover it up. We confess it. We give it over to God. And we seek correction. And that is where God says we prosper, because our feet stay on the path. Now, the opposite of that is we take off. We roam. We escape. We leave. We forget God. We don't even look back. And we say, I don't have any sin. What I'm doing is perfectly fine. And unfortunately, the sin that we choose not to see that God wants us to correct about will come back to us. It will be judged by the law that we've been avoiding. Because in the end, all things are judged. And if we don't see it now, we will see it later. And that's the truth. And everything that was done off that path will just fade away. And will be fruitless, pointless, wasted time. So, what do? We remember. We keep remembering. There's times in my life that God has done things that have changed me. And recalling those things, telling those stories, are what give me strength to stay the path and to remember that trusting God is better than anything else I can choose to follow. And when I am tempted to put my foot off that path, the thing I have to do, and the thing you need to do, all of us do, is we need to remember God is in my presence now. Why would I walk away? He has been there, He will be there, and He will always be there. And that is how we stay, we remember, we don't run. And that's how we stick to the path. So, thanks for joining me today on Daily Revelations. I hope you have an awesome day, and I will see you again next time. Bye, everybody.